Alright, here is the list. I usually use a double batch for this. You need a big bowl for this, okay? Alright, this is my grandma Shanks' sugar cookie recipe, and the ingredients should be on the screen. I usually make a double batch because these things get eaten up and you're tempted to eat half of the dough while you're actually cooking it. The main thing is you want to have plenty of flour. You want to have a big bowl here. This is a little bit small for the bowl, but it's the biggest one we have. So maybe Santa Claus will bring me one this year that's twice as big, because you want to have a deep, wide bowl. And you want to make sure you have plenty of flour in here. It's probably going to take an entire bag of this. You want to make sure that you form out the center in here, and you want to have it piled high. I've been accused of piling it high at times, but this is a different story. Anyway, you want to build up on the sides and make sure you got plenty on here, because that's how you need the ingredients into the recipe. So deep and plenty on the side. And again, it's more by touch on the flour than the amount of the ingredients. Because as you start kneading the flour into it, it gets pulled into the batter, and you want to make sure that you have enough, because if it sticks to the side, you're hosed. So we'll get started with our ingredients, get them all together. We're going to preheat our oven to 450, and we'll go from there. Okay, normally I can combine all the ingredients in one bowl, separate, and then move it over. One thing I think is helpful with the shortening is to put it in the microwave and liquefy it, so that it's even as you mix all the other ingredients in. And here's your liquid Crisco. I just like it because it gets combined a lot better. Here's what the consistency of the combined sugar, shortening, salt, buttermilk, soda powder, and eggs and vanilla look like as before we pour it into the mix. And I recommend on this that you use a wooden spatula or a wooden spoon to stir it. It just seems to keep the batter mix off of it. When you're ready to go, you pour it into the middle of the flour. Put it all in there. And then the whole thought about this is you want to slowly fold in the sides of the flour as you're mixing it in the batter. And a lot of times I'll pour a little flour on top just to thicken it up. You don't want to pour all your flour into the batter mix, because if it gets to the side of your pan, then you're hosed. I pour a little bit in there to the top just to give it some thick as we're mixing in here. And as you move the sides in, it pulls the flour with it and exposes more flour. And it takes a while to do. This is probably the most time. You can see it's starting to pull some of that flour in on the sides. And as you do so, the cookie batter thickens up a lot. But you gotta be real careful. And we'll add a little bit more on top here. And spread it out just because I don't like it sticking to my spoon. And already it's starting to thicken up. You can sort of see as I'm pulling that out, it takes it with it. And it becomes real thick. And then from here on out, it's just more of the same. See how it's... I just keep turning the bowl. You can see it's already starting to thick up, but you got to get it a lot thicker because the inside is still wet. And I think this is a crucial area where a lot of people mess up, because if you pull in too much flour, then it doesn't stay as one mass, and then you get little clumps. Pour a little more flour in on top of that. And then I start exposing more of the inside. And you're starting to see we're almost there. That's about what you want on there. Let's put a little more flour on top. And if you have a sifter, you can reuse what you didn't use before. Grandma used to have a 5-gallon bucket of flour and a sifter, and I think this is where she got it from reusing all this. Taste a little bit and see how we're doing here. Perfect. You want to enjoy your child? Now we have the cookie dough, and we're going to give it a little bit more of a pounding. The next part we want a nice big surface to work with. You want a rolling pin and plenty of flour. The next secret ingredient you may not find in the recipe is wine, because it's usually Christmas time and the kids are doing just that, whining. So give yourself a little bit of wine. The more kids, the more wine. Bottoms up. Okay. Just kidding. Okay, anyway, I'm going to sprinkle some flour. Isn't that usually the case? More kids, more wine? Can I have some cookie dough? Okay, anyway, I want to spread this out, because you don't want your dough. Get your fingers out of the cookie dough, T. Spread out on surface. Plenty of flour on the roller. And I usually take chunks out at a time, and this is kind of consistency that you're looking at here. And if it's sticking to your hands, then you may want to add a little more flour. And then we're going to roll that out. You know how to do it from here, but you really want to get a good thickness on this, because if it's too thick, it's going to be doughy. If it's too thin, they're going to be crunchy. And I didn't get enough flour on here, so I have to change that. And you can use whatever figurine that you want. I usually just use a drinking glass. Somebody hear that? We must be having audio difficulties anyway. And you get a little bit of flour on there, but so there we are with about that much. We have our 450 preheated, and we'll get started making cookies in just a second. Okay, we got our cookie dough all rolled out, and you can use whatever pattern you want. I just use a glass because I think it works better. And we're just gonna use them all up. I just find this makes a good size, and this is the way Grandma used to do them. So and then we'll put them on our cookie tray, which you can do. So we're at 450. As far as time goes, putting them in, this cookie's not gonna make it. And so you really gotta just take a look at it. Remember, I think last year, it was somewhere on the order of 3 or 4 minutes to cook. You want to get them just solid enough on top that when you pinch it, you push down on them, they just are barely giving. And into the oven they go. Top or bottom, babe?
Top.
And now it's time for another glass of wine. We'll put our timer on. Where's our timer, babe? This is easier. I don't do that one. Kitchen timer. So let's do 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And we'll do that, and we'll have another glass of wine. So a once famous French cooks once remarked, a dinner without wine is a heck of a lot cheaper. So we just got our first batch out, and it was 4 minutes exactly, but you may want to check it a little bit beforehand, because if you overdo these cookies, they just don't taste good. They get burnt, and that's not cool. You want to get them off of your sheet quickly, and get them cooling so that so they don't continue to cook through. If they're getting any sort of a medium brown, I think I have a problem with the video again. Is that like a sound effect? Anyway, then they'll be too done. But generally, that's what it looks like, and then we put a little sugar on top and eat them with milk, and they taste good. So that's what it is, and enjoy your cookies. Bye. Merry Christmas.